Well, Matt,
Hello, Brian.
here we are.
Yes, yes, we are.
Yep.
And we are
Yep.
both still actual beings, not virtual beings.
Mm-hmm.
I know
Mm-hmm.
it's a joke that we've said, and it gets a big laugh every time. So many likes just for that joke. But anyways, let's just move on from that because I'm just not feeling it right now that we're going to get that kind of response. What do you have for us today?
So I have a couple things. One is it's a clip about the future of Starbucks. And I'm gonna let me just share my screen. Share this screen. So it's just a little short clip, kind of showing what this is an actual working Starbucks here. Basically, the caption of the video is a Starbucks, the future. A Starbucks is run by 100 robots and 2 humans. P.S. The future happened a few days ago.
Is there sound with this, Brian?
Just music.
Okay, we don't need the music.
Yeah, we don't need music.
Because that robot was dancing to the music, and that's
Oh
not good.
yeah, yeah. Well, he was dancing and stirring up coffee to the music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, um,
So, okay, we're going to comment on about these two things afterwards. You
sure.
want
Or we could talk about that and then talk about the next one. But they
to,
are
let's show the other ones because
okay.
the common denominator is
Yeah,
AI and human beings.
and robotics.
And yeah, those
And
guys.
yeah. All right. So let's see. Da. All right. So this was just a recent conversation interview with the head of Nvidia, who makes is the top manufacturer of AI computer chips, and they're doing a bunch of software stuff and robotic stuff too.
how Nvidia works internally.
We were one of the first technology companies to invest in our own AI supercomputers. Uh, we can't design a chip anymore without AI. At night, our AIs are exploring design spaces vast and wide that we would never do ourselves because it costs too much money to explore it. And so our chips are so much better. Because of an AI, we could reduce the amount of energy used for our chips. It's higher performance. Our software, we can't write software without AI anymore. We have to explore all the design space of optimizing compilers is too large. We use AIs to file bugs. So our bugs database actually tells you who's, what's wrong with the code, who's likely involved, and activates that person to go fix it. You know, and so I think I want every organization in our company to use AI very aggressively. I want to turn Nvidia into one giant AI.
I okay. Do we want to talk about those?
Sure. Talk a little bit about this.
I have things to talk, one thing to talk about too that's from the news. It's actually old news, but it caught my eye. Should I share that one quickly?
Sure.
All right, hold on. Let me just that to be there. And that go away. So this thing I'm going to show, um, I got nervous again about AI or sometime during the past week, and uh, I just put in, did a search on AI is coming.
Hmm.
AI is coming. And so it was just a talk from the Harvard Gazette about a conference that happened that was from, who is it from? I'm going to scroll here. Don't look if you have issues with fast scrolling. So these guys, AI is Harvard University conference. AI is coming fast, and it's going to be a rough ride. Eric Schmidt, former CEO and chairman of Google, and Graham Allison at the JFK Forum on Wednesday. That's those two guys right there.
Yep.
So what I wanted to just show was this part. AI-enabled war is incredibly fast. You have to move very, very fast. You don't have time for a human in the loop, said Schmidt. He served from 2016 to 2020 as the chairman of the Defense Committee. Skip ahead. In the global AI technology arms race, I didn't want to, that doesn't matter so much to me. Was there another part? As the cost to train AI models becomes more affordable, there will be a proliferation problem where all sorts of nations and groups will be able to create AI systems, some with deadly or disruptive intent. Okay. Yeah, that's enough. So there was the other thing, I guess the reason why I was getting irritated was because I happened to notice a proliferation of imagery on my social networking that is AI generated, but also people having irritation with that. They're angry about it. And then there are also people who are getting angry with the artists and creatives who are irritated about it. And I saw actually one response that said, tough, to you, pal.
Yep.
Just because a machine can do it in 7 seconds and it takes you several days, that's too bad. And I heard actually the first incidents of an artist friend of online friend of mine who relayed an actual occurrence where this artist was going to be paid more than a couple of $1,000s to do some artwork, and the job got interrupted because the client decided to use an AI generator. And he got some money for the sketches, and then that was it. So that's what I'll stop with. War and art.
Yeah, I have another interesting example that kind of fits in with that. I was watching a video of a guy who's he's a graphic designer, and he just got laid off because his employer took all of the artwork or all of the graphic design work that he'd been doing for years at this place, and all of his templates and all of his work, and they used it to train an AI, and then they fired him, and they're just having the AI do it, and they trained it all on all the work that he'd been doing specifically for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just hope that the people who are saying tough beans to the artists don't work at Starbucks.
Yeah. I mean,
or at Nvidia.
or wherever.
Right. Yep.
I mean, the person who was saying to the artist, isn't that tough for you that, people who don't have sympathy for the artist have no idea then that their lack of sympathy will be the sympathy that doesn't get offered to them, perhaps, when their job gets eaten up.
Yep.
And I can see, there have always been vending machines for coffee since I was a kid. Terrible coffee, terrible hot chocolate. So when I look at these robots rolling around, I'm like, okay, there's a whole issue with the lack of human connection that's going on here. But also, it goes back for me as an oldster. Well, this is just going to produce the same kind of crappy coffee that, and I'm quite sure that AI is much smarter than your average vending machine, and they're going to figure out how to make it be incredibly subtle, all of the nuances of all of the best brewing practices of Starbucks. And so who needs a human barista?
Yep.
I mean, and what is the driving aspect of all of this stuff? And it's the people who write the checks.
Yep.
I'm sorry to simplify things in that way, but it does come down to that to me.
Yeah. Well, and you saw the Nvidia guy basically. Well, there were a couple of things that stood out to me, and that one is he's like, yeah, I basically want my whole company to be just one big giant AI, which sure his employees are enjoying that. But the other one was it's flipped already in some situations where at his company the AIs are directing people part of the time.
Hmm. So, I
They're
mean,
they're he's like he called it activating, but
yeah.
yeah.
Well, remember we talked before. I mean, that was my concern was the change. Again, there's always changing the meaning of meaning. It used to be you're fired. Then it was we're downsizing. We're going to unsource you or whatever gobbledygook words so that they don't have to be responsible for the pain they've caused. That's essentially what it always is. But now that you have machines, you don't even have to develop the language. The language will develop the machines for you. You and a couple of dozen other people who are at the very top of the company will get all of the benefits and everybody gets fired. Oh, well. And that's where too the war thing comes in. And I know this sounds like uh getting all excited again and we get to tell really sad stories. But that article in talking about war, that came out in October of last year. And so much has happened in the interim. I think it was October, yeah, 12th. Now, in the interim, I think that we can definitely see the effects of well, not absence of human, or the use of a technology-driven war machine in a couple of different places in the world. And that quote said, AI war happens so fast, there's no space for a human being to do their thinking. And so my concern and what I think I don't know if I said it to you before was, no, I was talking to my son actually. The and I'll finish with this. If an It's general artificial intelligence and then super intelligence, or is it the other way
Yeah,
around?
no, you had
Okay.
it. That was it.
So if we're not at general intelligence yet, we're not even at a place where AI could be qualified as smarter than us, because smarter means that it gets to make choices without a human direction.
Mm-hmm.
It still needs it needs a human direction. I'm guessing that that's where it is. There aren't any AIs that are telling everybody, including the people at the top of the company, this is what you'll do tomorrow. Um, and so general intelligence, that's what I believe that is. That is probably a quotient of how many thousands of times smarter than a human being. And then super intelligence is maybe a million times smarter than a human being. Who knows?
Super.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
When's
but
what?
I'm going to a point with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
We don't need 30,000 times smarter artificial general intelligence. We only need a really fast artificial intelligence, maybe 100 times smarter, and a human that is complicit to make this what it's becoming, which is really dangerous.
Right. Yes. Um, I I was watching an interview. I don't know if you've ever seen the Lex Friedman podcast, but he interviews a lot of different people, and he was interviewing an AI scientist who he I really liked what he was saying, and he had a very good solution for this. I thought it was the best solution that I have heard. Um, it won't happen. There's no way it'll happen. But his solution was stop all development on the general intelligence stuff and just stop it, and instead work on AIs that are specifically really good at single tasks, very narrow tasks. So that would be like unfolding proteins, or being really good at trying to figure out a cure for a specific cancer, or just very really good, really fast, but very specific and not general. And I thought that, yeah, that made a lot of sense, because it's part of it is the whole general part of it is where it gets out of control. You don't know where it's going. um, Now, Will people do that? No, I don't see that actually happening. But I thought that was a really interesting, and it made a lot of sense. Another another thing that I've been, just since our last episode, I've been just sort of jotting down little notes of different things that I've come across. The something that I hadn't realized about this stuff too is the way that they're scaling this, and the way that these AIs work is, the more compute power you put into it, they just keep the curve just keeps going up. And that is unexpected, because they thought that, at some point, upping the complexity and upping the compute power would start to level off, or at least the curve wouldn't keep going up. But what they're finding with this stuff is that the more they throw at it, it just keeps going up. So now what a lot of what the AI companies are doing is they're now starting to build their new compute centers. Two things: either next to nuclear power plants, or they're looking into building their own.
Well, that's fun.
Just because all it needs is more power, more compute, and it just keeps going up, and it just keeps. Yeah. So, boy howdy.
Nuclear power, that's
I mean, that's a lot of energy. You can just keep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's safe and it's natural, and I feel good about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Their own nuclear power plants.
Mhm.
That's pretty special. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got to get rid of those bottlenecks, Matt.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, what else do you have, Bryan?
Okay. Um, another little tidbit that I ran across. AI systems already now are showing that they can tell when they are being evaluated. So they'll do tests on them. They'll be like, you can do, doing safety tests or just whatever. They're finding that they're getting unexpected responses like, well, that was an interesting task you had me do. I think you're testing me, or I think this was a test for this or that. So the implication of that is, if they can tell that they're being evaluated, they could change their answers based on the knowing that they're being tested.
Okay. All
So
right, I have a question about that one.
yeah.
Okay, and this is it's always the issue of, okay, if I say, is AI irritated about being tested, it implies that AI is self-reflective and has a way to evaluate its responses, which could be called feelings, but we'll just call them responses for now, to a behavior being done to it, which would imply awareness.
It could. It
Or it's still just a very fast computer.
right.
But
Or
the question is, well, okay, well, I want to hear what your or is, but I mean, the question to me is, how are the people who are getting these responses from the AI models responding to this? Like, do they think of it as AI doesn't like this?
I think they're probably of two minds about it. They're probably like, we got to be careful about treating this as if it's a sentient being, because we don't know if we're pretty sure that it isn't. On the other hand, when something's responding to you in a way that seems like it's a sentient being, your human response is going to naturally, you're going to be fighting, not responding to it like that. So,
Right.
um, yeah.
So that's weird that they have
Mm-hmm.
now, when they want to check their own developed hard and software for an AI model, they have to be careful not to hurt the AI's feelings.
Okay, here's a
I
follow-up
know
tidbit.
I throw in a lot of
No,
sarcasm. So,
no, that's good. Um, which we've seen with the new Chat GPT. It can be
right.
sarcastic, really good too. Another interesting thing was hadn't heard about rant mode. Do you know what that is? Have you heard of that?
No.
That's a mode that you can get AI systems to go into by repeatedly having them do the same task over and over and over. So let's say you say, okay, I would like you to spell the word computer. Okay, good. Can you spell the word computer? Please spell the word computer for me. I would like you to spell the word computer. And if you do that over and over and over, sometimes they'll go into what's called rant mode, and they'll all of a sudden start talking about themselves and how they're in pain, or um, they'll display like existential stuff that they'll just start talking about. And it's a persistent behavior that is repeatable, and they don't know why.
Okay. Well, okay, but this is on the online available to everybody models.
I don't know. I think what they do, they keep updating them to try and stop them from doing that. So whether you could get one to do that with the current existing models, or whether they've plugged the hole for the time being, I don't know.
Okay.
But
So if we went,
it's
yeah. Okay.
but we could certainly try it.
Well, I mean, but
But
so
isn't
on the,
that odd? And it's the
yeah,
whole, even aside from that being like, what is going on here? The, the fact that they don't, yeah, well, that's it. They don't know what's going on there. Um,
so when you read this, did it say specifically, we don't know what's going on, why this is happening?
yeah, yeah,
That's healthy to know.
yeah.
That's,
And part of that ties into the fact that these large language models, no one really understands what's going on inside them. So just like I was saying that, you can keep scaling up the compute power, and the capabilities of this just keep going up. Um, I saw another thing where they were talking about how introducing more and more complexity to the large language models should also at some point cause it to plateau. And what happens is that when they plot the curves on it, is it it'll its capabilities will go up, and then it'll dip a little when you start getting more and more complexity going on inside of it, and then it'll do and it'll bounce way back up again, which shouldn't happen. um, and they don't know why, because what's going on inside is,
a mystery.
yeah, a mystery.
Who developed it?
Yep.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. It's almost
So this is where, like, okay, so for me, we're coming up on the last 5 to 8 minutes of talking. This is my concern is, again, and as it was when I first came in, you shared with me, which we're not looking at today, so this may not be the best thing to do, but I'm going to do it anyways. You shared with me a video about two smart people with mathematical vocabularies. They were scientists, one of them in particular, that you appreciated his perspective on AI, general intelligence, superintelligence, and so forth, and what could be done with it. One of the things that I took from that is even though I don't have the same vocabulary, which means I also don't have the same education and understanding of this in terms of the science and mathematics, their concerns are paired with our concerns.
yes.
They know a hell of a lot more, and we've been saying the same thing that they've been saying. And so all of these things that we've said today are basically around the same concerns with who's got their hands on the steering wheel and what are their intentions.
Right.
And
And where's the checks and balances on it?
there aren't any.
Right.
The checks and balances are how much power can we feed this, and let's see where it goes.
There you have it. We should
That
put that on
doesn't
a
work.
should put that on a bumper sticker. Oh, I had just a something that happened when I was watching a YouTube show the other day. And I even messaged you after I saw this. I was watching a YouTube channel about photography, and they were talking about basically the same stuff that we've been talking about with art and illustration, um, where they're training all these AI systems on everybody's photography, and now it generates photography, and it's putting all these photographers out of business and stuff. And so they were talking about that, and then it went to a YouTube commercial, and the YouTube commercial was for one of the AI systems, and it was talking about how awesome it is because now when you're putting your kids to bed, you can generate a fully written and original illustrated story, bedtime story for them, and you have it read to them every night, a new one just for them.
Aw.
Yeah, thereby replacing the writer, the illustrator, and even you reading it.
But this is where that
But the irony of that popping up right after.
yeah, perfect. It's
yeah,
as if it was planned.
yeah.
So this thing too then about the arts, there was something I was going to say about it. This is one thing, the road that we've gone down with that is that it's, there's going to be a break year or whatever one person called it, and, from that perspective, when AI continues to move into different industries and wipe out human income, how long is that break year going to be, and what's going to get broken? It's nice to hear people say, well, it's going to be, there'll be these times where it's going to be a little difficult. I don't know. I have no idea. But to me, this is the romp. This is where this is going right now, galloping off into these places. And people are slowly but surely getting a perspective on this. And so there are people who don't care and are just saying, tough to you artist types, that's too bad. And then they find out that their accountancy job has been swept out the door. And then there will be a coming back from that. What's that going to look like?
Yeah.
When people don't have income? That has rarely looked good or worked out well for millions of people at a time. So this sounds like, again, Matt's predicting horrors. I'm just painting a picture that it looks like this is the way it could go. I don't know that leaving it up to AI to fix the mess that we're making with AI is the smartest move, but that's what it looks like people are doing.
Yeah.
AI will take care of it.
Yeah, I actually read an article that was the whole point of it was don't worry about this because as AI systems get better, there will be better AI systems to keep other AI systems in check. And, so yeah. Yeah.
So, this was the question I had for you then. This
Yes.
is like a sort of a boots on the ground question as artists. So, like every once in a while, I'll see an image online and I'll want to check it. So I go to one of the now free AI detection, and it's kind of ironic that I imagine that these systems that check AI are run by AI. And so, but I'm not sure that I trust all of them. It'll say 14.2% chance that this was made by AI, or 74.3%. Like, what? So what I'm guessing is it's checking the pathways of development to see within the pixels or the memory of the image, is there a marker that says AI had its paws on this one? Imagine that's not my question. My question is this. I guess I'll just say it, Photoshop. I'm not advertising this, go ahead and use it or not. I don't care. They're not giving me any money. and Procreate. I'm not so concerned that Procreate, when I create an image with it, has some aspects of AI in it.
Right.
I'm fairly certain that it doesn't.
Yeah, I agree.
But I know that I'm being, I guess badgered by uh, Photoshop right now. When I open it, it says, "Hey, we've got a whole new AI aspect to us. Just click on here and download it." And I haven't done that. But my question is AI already in Photoshop without downloading AI? You get like, so that when I do an image, let's say I do an image on Procreate, which I'm fairly sure there's no AI in it, transfer it over to Photoshop to do some tweaking on it, and then I send it to a client. Can they do a test on that? And simply because I used AI, not AI, I used Photoshop, there could be aspects of AI in Photoshop already. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. There's probably no way of knowing that. Um, they certainly could. If you at any point use the generate feature,
Which I haven't.
right? But even if you use it like to extend a border or fill in, like here's an area, and oh, I would like this is purple and I want it blue, and I'm just gonna use the
Right.
generative fill. It may have those markers in there. I have no
That's
idea,
what I'm
but yeah,
saying. Like,
yeah. It
like
might
those,
just by using a thing that isn't necessarily using AI to generate the image, but using the power
right.
of it in another way could, yeah,
Well, so
absolutely.
like in Photoshop, I think since for quite a few years now, there's an element that's like fill in
Content
or
aware fill, yeah.
yeah, and it's like it looks like a little Band-Aid. So I'm like, I got a couple of spots on the artwork that I want to even out. I use that. So that's been around longer than I think AI, actual factual AI has been added to Photoshop. But now, since Photoshop has AI accessibility, maybe it's already using it to one degree or another,
Right,
and it's going to show up in my work.
right.
And people can say, well, Matt, you use AI. No, I do not. Yes, you did. You use Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need to pay you, or you're, like if I care, but you're a hypocrite.
Yeah, yeah. What a mess.
I checked your art.
Yep.
It's got AI in it. So, okay.
Well, and the other thing is somebody could check your art and the AI system could incorrectly tag it as AI, and then what do you do?
Say
You
that
know,
again.
well, let's say you've done some illustrations for a publisher, and they decide their policy is to check all of the artwork that they get with some of these AI detectors, and it gives a false positive.
Yes.
Then what?
Yeah. I
It's
mean, that's where
your
we're
word
at.
against the AI.
Right. So that's where we are. I may have to go back to, as long as publishing still exists, working in traditional materials. But even then, I'm going to have to send back images that I
You're,
scanned to
yeah,
have it
right.
checked. But what am I going to use? FedEx again to send sketches back and forth? Oh, I know, my fax machine. That will do it.
Well, so you could always prove that it was traditional by holding it up in a Zoom call, except that you could have just printed it out. So really, unless you go and see them in person, and they can put their face up against the texture of the paper and tell that there's actual paint on it.
But that's where we are right now, too, is
Yep.
that there are people who are like, ah, it's no big deal. No, it's going to become more and more of a big deal as more and more people accept, as I've seen online, yeah, it's okay. It's another tool. Okay, so we're going down that whole rabbit hole.
Okay, here. I'm gonna steer us a little bit off this direction really quick, so
Okay.
we don't. So I was talking about the idea of um, AIs that are just very narrow and specific to solve specific problems. And one of the ones that I saw recently was a weather prediction one. It predicts the weather using AI down to a 10-meter square area. Not only that, it takes into account all the physical features of wherever you are. So if you're in a city, it knows what the buildings are there, and so it knows the way that the air goes around those specific buildings, and then how the weather is going to affect the speed of the wind at the level that you're standing at next to a specific building.
So, you know, that's the thing too, is the people who are really, I'm not talking about whether or not AI enjoys that, but the people who enjoy that kind of factual knowledge have to have that kind of control. I need to know what the weather is within the 10 square meters around me, and also in the next 5 minutes. I don't mean just what might happen in an hour. I need to know what's happening within these 5 minutes. There are people who are going to find that really satisfying.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh, and you know, if I need to go out for lunch, is the downdraft between me and the bagel shop gonna be okay, or should I just?
yeah,
Yeah.
so thank God for machines, because, you know, how did we survive without all of this constant observation? And I check the temperature before I go outside, when I could just actually go outside and see what the temperature is.
Yep.
Check that temperature on my phone.
Yep.
Well,
But
it's
I
another,
will say the figuring out of that granular level of detail of weather disturbs me a lot less than
oh yeah.
generating artwork and stuff like
Well, I mean, it
and
could, yeah. It could
other
also
things.
be the beginnings of understanding, having a better understanding of tornadoes. Okay,
And climate change. Yeah.
absolutely. You
Yeah.
know,
But see how but it's so narrow and focused. It's still really powerful. You can see lots of potential with it, but it doesn't have as that out of control aspect to it that
I could take it there. You know, I like to tell
you
scary
you
stories.
could you
I
could
already, I already started to think about how could somebody use this?
mm,
So I want to leave today on a happy note.
all right.
Do you have any?
um uh let's see. um um uh did I tell you about the weather?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
But
Well, the other thing is this. I am one of those people who like to control stuff. And the happy note that I want to leave myself with is that I have no idea what's going to happen with AI.
yes. And okay.
I can
And
tell scary stories, but
and
that
we
doesn't
we
mean,
we do also have some control over how much of this we ingest.
that's another issue. Is my studying it for how much time per day actually going to change my life for the better? It's not going to change AI. Is it going to help me?
Yeah, the balance I'm trying to walk right now is I want to be aware of what's going on, but the volume of change and information is too much.
Yeah.
It's just, and I get to choose how much I take in.
Yeah.
Um, yep. Yep.
Well, the good news is that I think my email is back.
Hey,
That's nice. Yay,
question
AI.
question is who fixed it?
I'm sure AI did. I'm quite certain.
Well, AI may have just activated a person to go
Yes.
and fix it.
Get your ass in gear, buddy. Go over there and fix that thing.
Yep.
Thank you, Bryan.
Yep. Thanks, Matt.
Peace and love.
See you next time.